Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video, we're going to be giving you a spawn guide for the map Arsenal. In one of my previous videos, I asked if you guys would be interested in me doing a spawn guide the same way I did for World War II. And then I received several comments saying, yes, do a spawn guide. Please do a spawn guide. So that's what I'm bringing for you guys here today. And the first map I'm going to be doing a spawn guide for is Arsenal. And we're going to be talking about Team Deathmatch / Kill Confirmed, Hardpoint, Domination, and Control. So within the video, you're going to get spawn guides for each of those individual modes, and I'll kind of take you through my process on how I actually make these maps. So let's first talk a little bit about the process. So what you're seeing right here is me playing in a private match as a COD caster, and then for this, since it's Team Deathmatch, I loaded it in 6 versus 6 with the bots, and then basically I just watch their behavior, pretty much watch where their movements are. When one of them dies, I look for that number to respawn, and it'll immediately show me where they're at on the map. So you can see right here, the top left right here, the 7 and 9 just spawned in. Now 5 spawned in, and then behind them, they have 12 and 10 that just spawned in that bottom left corner. So pretty much I do this for an entire match for all the modes. So you can imagine this is a very tedious process, but in the end it pays off, and you'll kind of see what those maps look like. And then when we go in 5 versus 5, you can see the HUD's just a little bit different because that's probably what they'll use for competitive when they actually have the competitive scene. But what you're seeing here is a similar process, and the spawns will differ slightly from mode to mode. The only exception is modes that are pretty much the exact same, like Kill Confirmed and Team Deathmatch. So again, this is a very tedious process, very time consuming, and this is just for one map, to try and get the best possible spawn guide for one specific map. I'm going to go through and do the rest of the maps as well. Just depends on what you guys have the highest interest in. I just started with the first one since that was the alphabet. It starts with an A, and then you guys can suggest down in the comment section below. So if there's a specific map you think you need a lot of help with, make sure you comment that, spam it down in the comments if you have to, so I can actually see what map is the most important for you guys to break down, since it is very time consuming. So let's go ahead and get into those spawn guides. If you are enjoying the video at all, or you enjoy any of these tips, remember to hit that like button and subscribe, turn notifications on for future content related to news, in-game updates, best class setup, subscriber breakdowns, as well as other tip and trick videos like this one. So when I start the process, I got to start with this specific image. I trim around it, and then I get an image something like this. And then what I do is got to start plotting those dots. So here are the spawns for Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed. You can see they pretty much stay to the right side, far left side, and then they have those emergency spawns, I would call them. Those other spawns are a little too congested. It'll bail the player out, and it'll spawn them in one of these rarer locations, kind of away from the edge. You can see right there. And if I'm being honest, this actual spawn map doesn't look too different to the ones I did in World War II. They're very similar, where you kind of have 1 or 2 areas that you're going to spawn in, and then you have a third bailout scenario. Keep in mind, whatever your main spawn is when you spawn in, that's probably where people are going to spawn in about 90% of the time. And that is this bottom left corner and the bottom right corner. One little disclaimer I will do about this video, in case it isn't obvious, is that I actually highlighted in these red areas through hand testing. So that means there might be a random spawn here and there that don't fit this, but the vast majority of an entire match will fall in these red boundaries. Another reminder, in case it isn't obvious, is that Seraph has that special ability to place a spawn beacon that can actually influence this slightly. So obviously if there's a spawn beacon there, enemies can spawn on that beacon. So the next set of spawns we'll be talking about is Domination. You can see that I have them labeled A, B, and C very clearly. And then you can actually see that there's a little bit different variation of the spawns. There's one that popped up a little bit lower towards C, and there's a little bit one towards the bottom of the map. But for the most part, it's very similar, and that's fairly typical when you look at some of my previous spawn guides. The only mode that has any exception to this is Hardpoint, and the thing that differs with Hardpoint is the actual Hardpoint rotates on different sections of the map, and pretty much every time it rotates, the spawns kind of have a rotational pattern to them as well, where they actually set 2 separate spawns that are equidistant, which makes it a little bit more fair for each team to get a hold of that objective. But since it's still Hardpoint, there's always going to be spawns that are a little bit better than others, so anchoring will still be a thing based off knowing where the specific rotations are. So when we take a look at that Hardpoint spawn guide, you can see that it starts in the middle, bumps up to the top left, bottom right, top middle, and then bottom left. And it does that little bit of a pattern for Hardpoint, and there are 5 locations. You can also see how the spawns differ slightly. There's a little bit more regions that are little pockets on that right side, and then there's a few on the left side. So it really depends on where you're at. So just as an example, if the hard point were on 2, you can see that little box just to the right of the 1. That allows those players on the right hand side to be a little bit closer to the objective, and the box right above it, same exact thing. And another example of that happens when the hill is on number 3. You can see that little bit of reddish right next to the 5. That allows those people on that left side just to spawn in that much closer, so they can get a little bit closer and not be so far out of the action from getting back on 3. So let's go ahead and transition into one of the most popular modes right now, and that's Control. It's also one of the newest modes that they added at Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And you can see these spawns are very limited. There's almost no variation because the spawns do not flip. No matter how far you push in, they do not flip. They might have a random bailout that's not on this map, but for the most part, 99% of the spawns will be in these little red regions. You're on the left side, those 3 left areas. You're on the right side, those 3 right areas. That's one of the reasons why in this mode, spawn trapping is so prevalent, because the spawns do not flip and the spawns are so limited. So a typical group of 3 or 4 players could actually position in a way that pretty much you would have no option coming out of spawn other than to outgun them off a head glitch, which can be very challenging. I'm sure at this point in the game's life cycle, so early on, with all the little sweaty groups of 3 or 4 that are playing, you've already come across that, and you've either had to leave that lobby or you got a little bit destroyed, because when you're in a spawn trap, it is very difficult to escape that unless you use a specialist ability and a grenade, 9-bang, something to actually help you get out of that, especially if you're partied up with random teammates that have no clue what's going on. They continue to run out and feed the enemy team, and then now you got to deal with the different streaks. So currently in Black Ops 4, there are a total of 14 maps, so this can actually be a tedious process. I would definitely love your guys' input on which map you would like me to do next, so I can focus my efforts on that. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight on how most of the maps will more than likely work when we get into it, because this follows a similar path of what we saw in World War II and pretty much what we saw in Infinite Warfare. The only difference with Infinite Warfare is that you were able to spawn on teammates more regularly, which kind of threw it off, where you were always running into 2 or 3 man people because they spawned on top of each other. Also, if you have additional questions of maybe something I did not cover in this video that I can include in a future video, make sure you comment that down below as well, because I know tons of people that are brand new to Call of Duty, or they've been playing Call of Duty for a long time, and this video might not answer all those questions. I'll probably talk a little bit more in depth on map control, where you should position to hold that line so that the spawns do not flip. In those modes that the spawns will definitely flip. Also, now that I've had an opportunity to kind of break down the maps just a little bit, I'm probably going to do a long shot guide so you guys can get those easy long shots when you're playing the game for all those different camo challenges. So if that's something you'd be interested in me putting my effort in, I can definitely do that. So keep in mind that we're so early on in Black Ops 4's life cycle that there's so many ideas that I can actually make. I have a list of actually 30 or 40 video ideas that I could just pump out videos on a daily if I had enough time in my day. So to prioritize that just a little bit better, I would love your guys' input so I know which areas you guys most care about. So if you guys don't have any additional input on the next spawn guide, I'll probably just go ahead and do contraband, since that's the next sequence of letters. Goes from arsenal, contraband, firing range, and it continues on, frequency, and so on. So the only real mode that I kept out of this that is a respawn mode is free-for-all. And the reason I did that is because the rules on free-for-all are just a little bit different and will take me a lot longer just for one map. And I'll probably include all 14 maps into one spawn guide for free-for-all, because there's specific rotations you're going to want to use when you play free-for-all. So you can pretty much patrol a certain area without fear of getting shot in the back, which is pretty common in free-for-all. You'll walk out, someone spawns behind you, you immediately get shot, kind of get pissed off because you were on a streak, or whatever the case is. So I'm going to try and figure out the best rotations for you and what areas of the map you probably need to lock down based off head glitching, based off certain specialists. So I'll definitely make sure to include all 14 maps, and it'll probably be 15 once we get Nuketown into one map, so that if it comes up in the rotation, you're going to know specifically where you need to go, where you need to turn so you don't get killed, and then you'll be able to survive longer and maybe get that nuked out in free-for-all. And I know I got a lot of comments asking for this type of video, but now that you've actually seen the video, let me know if this is something that you think is of value, because if this is something you guys aren't interested in on a regular basis, I could completely scrap the idea, because like I said, I have several videos that I actually have planned for the channel. This is a priority for you guys. Make it be known down in the comments section below. Let me know what you thought of the video, if you thought it was helpful, and what was your favorite part, so I can actually focus on that if I continue doing these videos in the future. I would appreciate it if you guys could hit that like button. Like I said, these videos are very time consuming, very tedious, but it does pay off in the long run. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. We'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.